A short video to address President Biden's currently down in the dumps approval rating, as well as a key elephant in the room, namely inflation, and the view expressed in some media stories that this is going to turn into the main Biden presidency nightmare. You've heard me say in past videos that Biden's situation has been complicated since the summer on account of Saturn pressure on his natal Mars-Pluto square. This continues to be true until the middle of January because at the turn of the new year, transiting Saturn is squaring his natal Mars, but it's also true that Jupiter's entry into Pisces, right around when 2021 is ending, will serve to soften the harshness of that challenging square, and this sign change of Jupiter from Aquarius to Pisces, which puts it in a trine to his Scorpio planets instead of the current square it is making from Aquarius, not only helps Joe in a broad sense, but specifically when you ask to categorize the topic of inflation, it is exactly Jupiter you go to, since it is the expansion planet, and inflation is basically an undesirable expansion, which is perfectly mirrored by the orbit of Jupiter from October last month, when it made a station, and all the way until the end of the year when it finally enters Pisces, because in the late Aquarius region, it is going through squares to Biden's likewise late Scorpio planets. It probably also does not help to see that in the US chart, Jupiter is going over the national moon, because when economic conditions misalign, a planet like Jupiter can correlate with this exact problem. However, based on the astrology, there's a suggestion here that as Jupiter enters Pisces, the inflationary problem should diminish, even if perhaps it is through it simply becoming more acceptable in the eyes of the majority voting public. But either way, this improvement would become one of the topics that takes pressure off Biden and helps his ratings in 2022. We then see other curious correlations in regard to this whole issue when we notice the third sign is involved in both Biden's chart and the USA chart, as they both have Sagittarius rising, which means both have the same sign in the third place. Saturn transiting through the third, and especially still picking up some speed as it leaves the October station, points to the supply chain problems we've heard experts say explains a big reason for surging inflation, because the third sign associates to the transportation and movement of goods. And with Saturn transiting in that sign, and with Saturn being a restricting influence, you immediately think of delays and bottlenecks. But you can also guess that as it moves forward into the middle of Aquarius in the new year, and therefore in a trine to itself in the American chart, a 120-degree trine being harmonious would suggest that the flow should improve. And we also remember that the third is an information and media house, so that much of what is happening is reflected in media reports and media analysis that is currently quite negative for the country and for Biden. But as the Saturn transit in this sign moves forward and therefore improves, should also signify more positive media coverage and also better coverage for Joe.